business. It's business time. Hang tight, we're gonna get into the business right here in a couple minutes. Baby, baby. It's business. It's business time. All right, we are here with week 45 of It's Business Time. And this week we are joined by Cynthia Ferguson of Delfire Delfire Group,
Nice.
the production company. Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for asking me, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a long time coming. I've had a number of people reach out and say, you got to have Cynthia on at some point. And so I'm glad you were able to make time for us this week, for sure. Real quick, before we get started, I do always like to give a fast shout out to Stitch House Brewery for having us. They are right here on Market Street. They are a small business as well. Always have 12 beers on tap. Great food. If you find yourself on Market Street, definitely stop by Stitch House. But with that, Cynthia, we are rolling. Thanks again for joining the series. And yeah, as I said, you were recommended enough times. I was going to have you on anyway, but at some point I said, all right, I'll call her this week. So thanks for coming in the pinch, for sure. You got a festival coming up. We have Weekend at Bertha's coming up.
We do.
We have a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I want to hear as well about your own festival, Weedstock, in September. That's September
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. I love it. Before we get into it, though, the goal of this series is for those out here who want to be doing similar stuff, who want to be starting their own businesses, growing community organizations and things like that. My hope is that this series gives them a little bit of an advantage, right? They can learn from folks like you.
Gotcha.
And so in that vein, I kind of like to start back at the beginning. And we've known each other for a little while now.
Right.
But
like 2013, right?
2013, yup. When you booked my band at the time, for one of the earlier fundraisers for
the earliest fundraiser.
Yeah, the earliest fundraiser.
Yes.
But let's go back to the beginning with you. In that, what were you doing before you kind of got into the world of community building and organization? Because you're kind of an entrepreneur all over the place, but yeah.
Well, actually, I had a civil servant job for over 20 years.
Okay.
But I was always active in my community, which was Browntown. So it was just a natural progression. I originally got involved in advocacy because I kind of got pissed off about the cannabis laws.
Okay, gotcha.
So my nephew, who's an adult man, good job, got busted for, get this, 0.4 grams of cannabis. He had a roach. And he was 2 years, he lost his driver's license.
Oh my gosh.
So.
What year was this?
This was, my goodness, it was probably in 5 years before 2007.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, things have come a long way for sure, but I remember.
They were tough. They were tough. It took a long time. It took from that time till 2013 to find enough people to do what I wanted to do. Because the one thing I can say to everybody who wants to do this, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You need to have people. You need to find good people, and you need to treat them well, value their work and their opinions.
Yeah. That's definitely a common thread, whether small business, community organizing, whatever it is. You can't do that. You can't do it alone. You can't go it alone. And surrounding yourself with good people, and a sense of trust and loyalty in some regards too is critical, and especially in those early years. So this was 2007. You said, I want to get involved in some kind of advocacy in my state here in Delaware. And was that kind of the moment? Was that the...
Yeah, well, for 5 years I was haranguing my friends to start a Normal chapter.
Okay.
Normal's been around since, if you didn't know, 1970.
Oh, wow.
So it's been around for a long time, and they're a grassroots organization that relies on state chapters. So they have kind of strict rules about starting a chapter, and I couldn't find enough people to be to have a board. I couldn't basically find enough people who would willing to say, "Hey, I smoke cannabis and I'm going to fight for it."
Yeah, yeah.
So,
no, I've always found the irony that you can go into a store and buy poison, but you can't, access medicine.
Correct.
I've always found that to be very odd in our society. Mm-hmm. So you had the personal experience with the nephew, and then you set up the chapter of Delaware.
Right. I was sitting at my computer on New Year's Day thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? And I said, let's just have a meeting. So friends of mine lived in Arden, so we rented Buzzware Village Center.
Yep.
And published it on Facebook, the meeting.
Yeah.
Was I surprised? Like 45 people showed up.
Yeah.
And we were able to get a board from that group of people.
Wow.
So it was pretty interesting, and I have to give Facebook all the credit for it.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we publicized it.
Wow. So in the early days, you set up this event, and from that event, you were able to get
a board. I got enough people who were willing to become a board.
Yeah. Can you describe, because this series is a little bit about like learning how these things are done, can you describe a little bit of how you kind of explain to them what you're doing with setting up the board? Because, for a lot of people, they don't know what a board is to begin with.
Right. Well,
and
Normal had pretty... because the organization's been around for so long, they had a lot of helpful tools to set up a board. They had, you have to do bylaws.
Right.
You have to do meetings.
Like a charter and all that.
You have to find enough people to fill all the positions. They required 5 board members.
Gotcha.
So that's what we originally did, and then we just we actually held weekly meetings.
Okay.
And that's one thing I can say to people. We hold a lot of meetings in the things we do. We meet twice a week. Zoom is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But the couple things that we do, we meet twice a week.
Yeah.
And there's a group of us right now at this point in time that are doing that.
Yeah.
But back to normal though. So we just started having monthly meetings. It was interesting. We got a consultant who volunteered her time. She was a high dollar consultant, and she said to us, after talking to the board and after coming to an event, she said, I think you should just keep having parties. Just keep growing a community. And that's what we decided to do.
Yeah, I've been to a number of these through the years, and it makes sense. I mean, I come from the event space as well, and it's really there's a lot of ways to build a community: Zoom meetings, Facebook groups, live events. There's a ton of ways, and it really is kind of like the web. And you say you were meeting twice a week, like consistency.
We meet now twice a week.
You meet now twice a week. Back then, that was once a...
We met once a month, but the board itself, we would have a public meeting once a month. And I think that's the one thing that really kept Normal going for as long as it did.
Yeah.
We would have a meeting. We always gave a door prize, which was a considerable prize.
Yeah.
And give away free things, tickets to weed stock,
right,
all kinds of stuff. So we always had a nice group of people who look forward to our monthly meetings.
Yeah. Got you. So these early days, you're kind of getting your tribe, so to speak. You're building out the group.
Good way to put it, yes.
Yeah. We talk actually, this is an ongoing theme about finding your tribe. Because sometimes, people I'll use like sports performance as an example, right? There's a lot of people who do different things in the sports performance, but they're all dedicated to the same goal, which is, giving people a place to improve their physical fitness, etc. And then you'll find the people in arts and community, gallery owners, things like that, and they find their tribes and artists and buyers and stuff. And so it's interesting to kind of see that in the in the kind of legislative, like, so you guys were focused on policy as well, is that
Right.
correct?
Well, we had groups, and from Delaware Normal, another group was formed, and they really work very heavily on working with the legislature. If you haven't heard of them, it's DELCAN, Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Yes.
Okay, so you're building your tribe, you're doing the monthly meetings, you have your network and your board members too, which
Yes.
obviously, like you say, you can't go it alone. And you had a consultant come in and say where a lot of your value is in throwing these parties,
Yes.
in giving
And
people
creating a community. Yes.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? You provide entertainment.
Right. Yep, and that's when you called me. But yeah, that was funny. Right as I thought of Arden Buzzwear Cafe, I got a little buzz by. But yeah, and this was in Arden, which I will say is a great place to kind of build a community.
Yeah, they were very accepting for a lot of years.
Yeah, gotcha. And then so when did these kind of so one thing too I want to mention, like, how important was the consistency of these monthly
Extremely.
meetings?
So much so that because it was at Arden Buzzware Village Center, there were 2 months a year in the summertime where they have camp and we couldn't have meetings. And it was like a hump we had to get over every year. So it was very important to know it was going to be on the third or fourth Tuesday of the month,
Right. Gotcha. And so that consistency eventually rolled into the festival that you got.
Well, one of the things you have to do when you're doing like grassroots advocacy work is raise money.
Right.
And so we started having parties as well to raise money.
Yeah.
And had festivals to raise money. And then, we had gone to different festivals our whole lives. And they always did odd things at them. Search your purse.
Right.
Pat you down. We decided we were going to have a festival where people didn't have to worry about that.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And, I've been to a number of your events through the years. And I always do. I'll say I feel like family when I'm there.
That's nice to say.
It feels like a giant Thanksgiving dinner or something. I remember we used to have the Friendsgiving in college, because not everyone could go home to see their families. And that's a very similar vibe for the smaller events.
Yeah.
But then for the bigger events, it definitely feels... I've always loved the block party vibe.
Oh, yeah.
And...
It's all your neighbors.
Yeah, it's all your neighbors, all your friends, and it doesn't feel like you're just like a ticket master churn and burn,
Yeah.
That's a whole nother the whole logistics of how festivals work. That's like a whole podcast in its own right.
Oh, isn't it though?
But so what year then did you? So Firebase Lloyd is where Weedstock happens every year, correct?
Correct. It's on Route 9. It's a Vietnam vet property.
Yeah. And that's where Weekend at Bertha's is going to be.
That's where Weekend at Bertha's is going to be this Friday at noon.
Yeah, this Friday at noon. What's that? Friday the 26th.
Through
July
to Sunday.
26th. Yep, through Sunday. So camping all weekend. And that was actually Dwayne Todd was on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was someone who said I should have you on as well. And yeah, it's funny because when people kind of scroll through the folks, you can tell the festival organizers because they have very colorful banners. You as well for this one. But yeah, Pete Best is going to be there, headlining. Kenny Vanilla is a friend of mine, reggae artist, is going to be playing as well. A bunch of other.
Yeah, we're going. Our whole our Delfire Group actually sponsored this festival.
Okay, yeah.
So we offered them some money for a sponsorship, and anybody who's seen their billboard, they were kind enough to put that, thanks to our sponsors, and put us up on their billboard on Augustine Cutoff.
Okay, wow. Can you tell me a little bit more about how the early advocacy transformed into Delfire Group, what you guys are today?
Yeah, well, we started doing weed stuff, and people loved it. They loved the atmosphere. They always thought it was so friendly.
Yeah.
Because that's what we really try to achieve there. A
It is
place
very
where you
friendly.
can make a new friend.
Yeah.
And from that, from the advocacy came weed stock because we needed the money to do the advocacy.
Right.
There came a point where Normal National was pulling away from us doing festivals and stuff.
Right.
So we started the Delfire Group in order to continue doing weed stock.
Gotcha.
And we just give money to Delaware Normal through the proceeds, but they don't put it on.
Okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because it's there's always a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to when things start to become successful and grow. But just to kind of step back for a moment too, the line you mentioned about in order to do advocacy you have to raise money, that's a really important note there, because that's part of the small business vibe here.
Yeah.
Is there's so many ways to raise money. You can sell trinkets, or you can take
Get
percentages,
sponsors, you get sponsorships,
tickets, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like particularly for newer businesses and folks who are just starting out. Ed, one of our earlier guests, had an analogy I love, which is you're kind of like a dog in a dumpster. You don't know what is going to be nutritious. You just are kind of eating everything, hoping something works out.
What a great app.
Yeah, right? Can't you?
Really?
Yeah, you can picture it. It's like, this might be, and as you kind of grow, you realize, like, this food is nutritious. This is not good for me, or a waste of my time, or creates more problems. That's something I'm sure you've run into, where certain things create more problems than solutions.
I gotta say, I'm really good. I'm a little bit older than most of the people I work with, so I kind of got to the point of working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And I got to the point of weighing how much time and energy you have to put into something, and what's the return for it.
Right.
So I've fortunately came into doing this with that attitude.
Right.
And sometimes it's quite a conversation trying to back them down from one of their, which are always great ideas.
Right.
That could take just too many hours.
Yep.
Or too many people to implement.
Yeah. I think you and I could probably list on both hands friends we have who have a ton of great ideas, but executing each idea is going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy.
And what's the return for that?
Yeah, what's the return? Yeah. Because it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a lot of it is like, let's put on a great event where people feel welcome.
Right.
And then everything kind of works backwards from there.
From that, right. That's exactly what we do. We try to always make it interesting. Anybody who's been to our events, we give a lot of stuff away.
Yep.
It's just like a cool place to hang out. And some people come for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Some people come in and spend a couple, 3 hours, watch a couple bands, get something to eat, and some people will stay the entire weekend.
Yeah. No, it really is a special community, and you do the Firebase Lloyd event. You do that twice a year, is that correct?
We do it twice a year. We do it in the spring in April, and in the fall around September.
Gotcha.
We started it out once a year. The first year we had so few people come to our first event, we said, oh, what the hell? And that same year, just a couple months later, had another one.
Yeah.
With another name, with different musicians and everything. And then we just started working it up to once a year. And it got to the point where people were saying, I can't wait a year.
Right.
So we decided to do it every 6 months.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it certainly worked out. I mean, I've been to the last couple, at least the last two, and it really is. It's a great time, great community, great opportunity. You have a lot of vendors as well.
We have a lot of vendors
at your spots, so a lot of small businesses all kind of gathering in one.
Yes, and they too have created a community.
Yeah.
We try to put them in the same spot so they know the people they're around. I know outside of this event, they start talking to each other. And working together, so it's a really nice community that they've built.
Gotcha. So you help sponsor the Weekend of Birth is coming up this weekend, and you have Weedstock coming up Friday the 13th.
14th and 15th.
14th and 15th. And both of these are camping events, so bring your
Yes.
tent. You can stay all weekend. And that is something special. It's nice to go, have a little music. I mean, not everyone goes to sleep, but go to sleep and then wake up and you're already there. You don't have
Yes.
to pack or plan or anything. You pop up and a lot of great vendors. Food truck circle every year too.
We have a nice food truck. This year they're having a competition, a food truck competition.
Yeah.
As well, we're having a vendors cup.
Yeah.
So there'll be 2 competitions going on to the people who make Weedstock.
Yeah.
Last year we really rely on our volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we started giving awards to volunteers at the end of the festival.
Okay.
So they get awards and some type of trophy and some bragging rights.
Right.
For
That's
that.
cool.
So, because you do, like I said, you rely on the people.
Yeah. Do you remember, this is a real off one, but do you remember the name of the Jamaican food truck that was there?
Marley's?
Marley's, yeah.
Was it just there?
It was there at the last one.
Marley's.
Yeah, Marley's. Yeah, shout out to their brown stew chicken. But no, it really is. It's a great event, a great community event, and I love, like, you and I have known each other now for over a decade, and I love kind of seeing how this slowly gets better every year. The community builds, the community grows. In that vein, I have set myself up for a segue. How can people find you? What's the best way to get involved?
Weedstock.org.
Weedstock.org.
Or Facebook.
And then by the similar name on Facebook.
Facebook, I think it's Weedstock DE.
Weedstock DE, gotcha. So check them out on Facebook as well. And then in terms of volunteering and being part of the broader group, is that the best way to kind of follow through there as well?
We actually use a company to organize our volunteers.
Okay.
We pay them to do this. It's called Festival with an O at the end instead of an A. And you can sign up to be a volunteer there. We give our volunteers, we feed them, we give them shirts.
Festival. Yep.
I always make it akin to, like, if you go to, say, you go to Texas and you go to one of these ranch vacations where you're working, but they take care of you. We kind of do the same thing.
Gotcha.
So there's always a mess. There's always something you
Yeah.
can get to eat.
Yep.
We do have showers. We have premium camping, and that has real showers
Yep.
and real running water. So it's
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, it's a well-organized festival right in Townsend, Delaware.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you through. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
I got to shout out to all the people in our crew.
Yeah.
The Delfire Group, there's 9 of you. And without this, we couldn't do it.
Yeah. Shout out to Delfire Group for sure.
Yes.
And outside of that, I'm looking forward to this year's. I'm looking
You're
forward
gonna
to
be
this
playing.
weekend. Yeah,
Yes,
this
you're
year.
gonna be
I try
playing.
not to make this about me as much as I can avoid
yes,
it.
but I did notice you were on the lineup. I read it just in case.
I got we have an early set this year too, so
Yes.
I'm planning on a lot of, like, very relaxed. I think it's like noon or 1, very relaxed, like
I think your
reggae
first one
and all that
on
stuff.
Saturday.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's a nice flip from the last year. I went on at 10 and it was getting late. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
People were still vibing, but I'm excited to do the daytime thing because that's when everything's still sunny and fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
But so I will be seeing you September 13th.
And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, Cynthia. Thank you so much for coming through. Cynthia Ferguson of Delfire Group. That does it for week 45. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for Stitch House for having us, and we will see you guys next time.
It's business. It's business time. Hang tight, we're gonna get into the business right here in a couple minutes. Baby, baby. It's business. It's business time.